you own a rental property and then you can't rent it out, you have to collect 6.75 sales tax and send it to Department of Revenue. You have to collect 3% officer tax and of course, if you're within 10 limits of Franklin, you also have to collect their officer tax.
How about turn to public comment period? Sign the sheet.
That's why
Does anybody wants to sign up for that?
We don't have to do nothing.
And also the other one is the proposed names for road name changes. We're going to have a hearing here in just a second. Does anybody want to sign up for that? Only $1.
When did the price drop?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, somebody will walk in. Get it.
All right, I'm going to call the April 9th, 2019 meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners to order. And I'd like to welcome all of y'all in attendance. Thank you for getting out tonight. Do we have any announcements? Crickets, it's quiet. Mr. Manager? Everybody? No announcements, all right. With all rise, we'll observe a moment of silence, and I'm going to ask, let's go with Commissioner Higdon tonight, please.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call a public hearing to order. Proposed names for new roads, to assign a range of road numbers in connection with the same, to consider requests for road name changes, and to consider a change of range of numbers for certain roads. Miss Angie, I presume you're going to be presenting to us.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you. These new roads have all been posted and advertised as required by the North Carolina General Statutes, and I recommend that all of them be approved.
Gentlemen, I have prepared a proposed ordinance for your consideration, which shows various changes that are being requested by Angie, and I think at this particular point in time it would be appropriate for the chair to open up for questions from the public.
Okay.
Or comments from the public.
All right, we'll be welcome to have public. I don't have anybody signed up, but would anybody like to address the board in regards to the potential road name changes? Anyone? Going once, going twice? All right.
These are range numbers and also names for new roads. So there's a number of items on there.
Motion to approve the according to the 911 coordinator, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do I need to close public hearing before we
need
take
to
that?
close the public hearing, and then there is a, like I said, in your agenda package, there is a proposed amendment to the ordinance for road naming, and we'd need the appropriate motion at that point in time to approve that,
okay,
or not approve it.
All right, last chance. Anybody like to address the board? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we'll entertain your motion now.
I'll entertain a motion that we approve by the suggestion of the 911 coordinator, the name changes as presented. And we can do that or later, right, in another motion?
Well, no, I think you can present them
together,
approve them as presented by the 911 coordinator and as set forth in the amendment to the ordinance, which is in your agenda package.
As set forth in the amendment that's in our agenda package. That's all in one motion.
Can we get a second?
Second.
With a second by Commissioner Shields. Any further discussion?
Any opposition? Strong opposition?
Nobody showed up to speak against it.
Okay.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you, Angie.
All right, we're going to move right along to our public comment period. First up, we have Mr. Ken Murphy. Welcome, Ken.
Good evening, all.
Morning.
My name for the record is Ken Murphy. My wife and I have a home at Lake Nantahala, and I'm here on behalf of the Nantahala Highlands Estates Property Owners Association, the Mountain Shadows Homeowners Association, and the Little Choga Homeowners Association at the request of all those HOAs. I'm here in support of budget funding for the Sheriff's Department that would enable the department to increase its presence in the Nantahala area through increased patrolling and perhaps later a satellite office. As you know, the Nantahala area is quite remote and it's particularly vulnerable to burglaries and other crimes. Since law enforcement is one of the critical functions of government, we wholeheartedly endorse the use of our taxes to help protect us and our property. And thank you for your consideration of this request.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Birch, I think, did you scratch your name?
Yeah.
Okay. John DeVille. Welcome, John.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm not here tonight to ask you for any money. I'll do that next month. I'm here tonight to, in my role as a member of North Carolina Association of Educators, to explain to you why teachers will be marching again this May. Over 25,000 of us marched last May 16th. We made a little bit of headway with the General Assembly, but in our opinion, from what we see in our classrooms, we have a ways to go. We're marching for 5 specific reasons. We are looking to get more librarians, counselors, psychologists in our schools. We are currently somewhere between 3 to 5 times below where the national associations recommend that we be. You can look at the mental health issues that we have in this county alone, and if you can hear the tales from Dr. Baldwin, you can hear the tales from every teacher in Macon County schools that we desperately need more counselors and more school psychologists. Another issue that we are marching for is for a living wage, a minimum wage of $15 an hour for all school personnel, including our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our custodians. Right here where we're standing tonight, East Franklin, 18% of our fellow Maconians are living below the poverty line. That's inadequate to raise a family, so we're marching for a fair wage. We're also marching to ask the General Assembly to reinstate the health benefits that they are eliminated in 2017 for retirees. We believe that that's going to hurt teacher recruitment. If you look at the teacher pipeline in this state, it is declining. That's troubling. We're also asking the General Assembly to restore compensation for advanced degrees. We also believe that that impacts negatively our ability to recruit excellent teachers into the system. It wouldn't be me if I didn't have a handout here for you. So, I'll get you take that stack and pass it down. Thank you. So, one of the things that we're not specifically marching for, but I bring this board's attention to it because I believe that there is a strong possibility that it is going to impact this board here soon. And if you look on that front page that is coming down towards you, this is these two charts on the front show you the deficits that North Carolina public schools face relative to where we were funded, adjusted for inflation in 2008. And I draw the board's attention to textbooks and school supplies. Textbooks were still 39.5% below where we were in 2008. School supplies, we are 55% down where we were. Here in Macon County, we spend about $130,000. Got the number there for you below the charts. $135,982. That's the money that you all give us in addition to what the state does. So, the state gave us $135,000. You all give us another $90,000. We are being told right now, the last 2 weeks in Raleigh, that school systems, that superintendents, that central offices, that principals are wasting school supply money. And there's no evidence of this. I bring to the board's attention a proposal that is in Raleigh right now that I believe has a strong chance of passing, and I believe will strongly negatively impact the classroom, and I think it will negatively impact the taxpayers of Macon County. And that's the following proposal that's addressed in the editorial that's on the back of that handout. And I apologize for the headline. This is the Charlotte Observer's choice for a headline, North Carolina Republican School Supply Sham, and I fully understand that this is not every North Carolina Republican. I don't believe it's every North Carolina Republican in the General Assembly. This is some North Carolina Republicans' plan. And what the plan calls for is to give every teacher in North Carolina a $400 stipend. At first, I thought this might be an excellent idea. I thought it was going to be a positive sum, that it would be $400 in addition to what we get right now directly allocated to the central offices. That's not the case. So it's a robbing Peter to pay Paul situation where we're talking about simply reallocating funds, but it's worse than that. And it's worse than that for two reasons. If we give the money directly to teachers to buy school supplies with, things like copy paper, poster board, markers, I will be buying it as an individual, as John DeVille, and will not be able to get the advantage of lower prices by buying in bulk. So that's one hit that we take. The other hit that we're going to take is that it's all purchased through an app known as Class Wallet, and that's a for-profit operation. So they're taking a cut off of that as well. So not only is this not positive sum, not only is it not zero sum, the school supply thing, I believe it's negative sum. So I bring that to the board's attention to possibly talk to Representative Corbin and Senator Davis about that, because if this thing hits, then I think we're going to be coming back to you all to ask you all for more school supply money. The last thing I want to bring the board's attention to is the map there. It's on the back, and that shows the percentage of people in North Carolina by county who have no health insurance. Now this map, I'll admit, is 2 years old, but you see the 4 or 5 far west counties are in a situation of 18% to 26% of no health insurance. And so the last thing that we are marching for on May 1st, as teachers, as bus drivers, as custodians, as concerned citizens, as students, is for the opt-in of Medicaid. In other words, to use a phrase that Mr. Rowland uses on a regular basis, we're leaving house money on the table in this state. For every dollar that we would spend on Medicaid, the federal government would basically give us back $9. We are sending billions of dollars of our money to Washington, D.C., and we're not getting that back. You know, I'll close with this and I'll be done. There are several studies out that would show that if we did the Medicaid expansion, that would bring 40,000 jobs to North Carolina, 40,000 well-paying jobs. We know, because we live in Macon County, what the impact has been with skyrocketing healthcare costs on rural healthcare. 40% of North Carolinians get their healthcare in a rural hospital. We don't deliver babies here anymore. We don't deliver babies in Transylvania anymore. We've had 5 rural hospitals close in North Carolina in the last 18 months. We know that students who aren't having their health care taken care of don't learn. We know that students who worry about their parents and their grandparents not getting health care don't learn. We have 27,000 diabetics in this state not getting their meds, 40,000 women not getting screenings. We could save taxpayers over $50 million a year if we would expand Medicaid. So that's why we're marching on May 1st. I've got room in the van leaving from Macon County. I can hook you up with a seat on the bus leaving about 3 a.m. from Asheville if you're interested. I thank all of you for your service, and I thank you for your time this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, John.
Just a couple of comments. Been in Raleigh yesterday, John, on the teacher, on the $400. The 2 teachers of the year were there yesterday. The past teacher of the year in North Carolina, and they, like you, they thought it was a good deal till they read the details. And both of them, well, one didn't show and one did. So, and on the Medicaid, being chairman of the Medicaid transition team, I can tell you that is for mental health. I mean, that's a statewide committee, and it's, you talk about, it's billions of dollars, and is it going to the right place? We ain't got that far yet, but Medicaid expansion is just, it's a must in our state now, more than ever.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Commissioner Beal. Thank you all.
Thank you, John. All right, additions or changes to the agenda. I have one item. Our Police Chief Phil Harrell is here. I'm going to move him up due to a conflict in his schedule to 9B from 11A.
He wants to come now.
Yep.
Bill's ready.
Maybe 1 second. Well, y'all mind? We'll just go ahead and knock him out so he can move on. We'll move on. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. Thank you all for allowing me to be here tonight, and thank you for moving me forward. And I'll try to be short, other than stature. I'm here to discuss with you tonight opportunity for us to partner with the county, along with Franklin Police Department, and the Interact communication for the CAD system that the county has been a part of for probably 7 years. Yes, okay. And Franklin has came on board. We've attempted to come on board a few years ago, where we got a grant from the Governor Crime Commission, but it was frozen in 2017, and it was just released to us last month. And so we are trying to partner again with those agencies to streamline our communication efforts in public safety and law enforcement, and hope that you will approve that facet. The memorandum and interlocal agreement Chester has, I actually took the liberty of kind of stealing Franklin's, if you will. Actually, it was given to me, but to place our name in Franklin's place and then return it to him, and hopefully in your packets tonight, which we would be just asking for the same treatments and agreements, and that's all there is to it, I hope.
I did prepare an interlocal agreement a few years back for the town of Franklin, and my understanding the town is looking for a similar arrangement. What I would like to do is I'd like to take that agreement and make sure, I don't know whether or not the town of Highlands attorney has been involved in looking at that yet.
Not at this time.
What I'd like to do is give him the opportunity to look at it, see if there's any changes that he'd like to have made, and whether he's on board with the way that is drafted, to make sure the folks up in Highlands are happy with that agreement that we're using with the town of Highlands. I'm sorry, with the town of Franklin.
Chief Holiday, a timeline on the grant?
We've got actually, the grant is already active, and they ask for quarterly reports, and we have obviously not spent anything until we come to this point where it has to be approved.
But you're ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Chief Harrell, is there a problem with this waiting for the board to act on it in May?
No.
Should we go ahead and approve it upon the, after the attorneys look at it? Could we go, unless there's a problem, could we go ahead and approve it and give the county manager the authority to enact it?
I think that's fine if you're inclined to approve it as it is written, subject to approval by the county.
But most of these things, you drag them on a month, and then next month or something else.
Well, the reason, again, we're having to take these steps in this order is because we have different board meeting nights. So ours is the third Thursday of each month, and yours, of course, is tonight, and we have to just take one step at a time, and then if it's agreed upon tonight, contingent of Town of Highlands Commissioner's approval, which they've all reviewed it, it's just a matter of a formality, and the town attorney, Mr. Coward, then we'll immediately start spending to get those softwares and to get that tool hopefully put in place.
I can certainly conduct my review immediately. I will want to speak with the folks at IT here. I do remember when I dealt with that issue with the town of Franklin, I had some questions about making sure that our software agreement and our hardware, we weren't violating anything. I would like to have that opportunity to speak with folks. at IT.
Have you reviewed it, Simon? Have you reviewed?
Yeah.
You comfortable with it?
Yeah, it's, I mean, as it's presented is exactly the same as what the town of Franklin's doing today. So they actually buy the software separately. So it's just a matter of using our system. And it's really a benefit to dispatchers and the other agencies because they can communicate more quickly and maintain the information that they have just spoken across the radio.
Mr. Chairman?
I'd like to make a motion that we'd move forward with this document as presented and authorize the county manager to proceed with it as long as the county attorney doesn't find any issues with it.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner
And approved by the
Gillespie.
town's attorney?
Yes, sir.
The Highlands.
I'm sorry, town of Highlands attorney.
We got a motion by Commissioner Gillespie, a second by Commissioner Bill. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Chief.
again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, back to adjustments to and approval of the agenda.
Under old business, I would like to add item number 10C, and that is just to, for the board to again discuss the setting a date for the hearing for the comprehensive plan.
All right, anything else, Mr. Manager?
That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, under new business, I guess we'd put that under 11F.
11F.
11F. It would be a report and a request from the board for their review and information concerning Gillespie Chapel.
That's yours? That's yours? No.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Carmen, you had told me you needed to add something.
Consolidated agreement
The consolidated agreement.
with the state.
Could we please?
What's, can we do those under reports and presentations? While he's up here, we can just do all three?
Yeah,
Is that fine?
I'm sure that's good with you, isn't it, Carmen?
We also add item under reports and presentations, update on the planning board's first meeting, which was conducted in Navajo.
Okay. It'll be 9C. All right, anything else, Lori?
Yes, if I could add, under new business, the approval of the application to draw down our lottery funds this year.
Okay, that'll be G.
Thank you.
The lottery funds. Where everybody's won lots of money.
Anything else, Chester, anything? No?
I do think there was some indication that there might be a need for closed session this evening.
Okay.
My understanding was for the purpose of discussing the possible acquisition of real property. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got it. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with said changes? Motion by Commissioner Gillespie. Second. Second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor? Aye. All right. Carmen, welcome. School-based health grant award, and then we'll move right on to the consolidated agreement.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Mr. County Manager, County Attorney, Finance Director, Assistant County Manager. Thank you. I am so pleased to be here this evening as the interim county manager, excuse me, not your job, interim, it's my first time, interim health director, and to report some exciting news. And I'm also privileged to have a great working partner in our superintendent of schools, Dr. Baldwin, which I'd ask to join me up here now, if you would. You're
Welcome,
taller,
Chris.
so you can catch the fire first. Just kidding. What I wanted to make the board aware of is the fact that some time ago, I believe it was in November, the county manager and the superintendent of schools asked if we could meet about an issue that they were very concerned about. And the issue centered around mental health for our children. And in our discussions, I could tell the compassion that both gentlemen had for improving our children's situation and giving them a fighting chance when they left school to be as healthy and as successful as they could. So to help with that challenge, what we looked to do was find some funding to provide service for the children. And what we ended up coming up with was a grant request to the Office of Rural Health in North Carolina, the Community Health Grant. And that grant was to fund a school-based health center. The school-based health center will provide several different services. One will provide preventative health care, such as immunizations. Two, will provide nutrition services, such as having a nutritionist to counsel not only children but parents. And three, behavioral health services. We were fortunate enough to have a collaboration between the school system, the county, Western Carolina University to help us evaluate our success or our challenges, Appalachian Services, and the health department to provide a more comprehensive approach to providing services for young children. Young children can benefit by intervention earlier than waiting till they're in high school, for example. And so we are thrilled, and I am, speaking for myself, just very pleased to say that we were awarded $150,000 to provide this school-based health center in Macon County. We're one of 18 grants, and it was very competitive, that was awarded in the state for this service. It's a one-year grant. My plan is for the future sustainability is to look at other sources of funding. The Division of Public Health also has a school-based health program that awards grant funding for school-based health centers. So we'll look at that as a possibility for future funding, and the potential for future funding from the Office of Rural Health is a possibility as well if the legislature approves it. So for that $150,000, what we're intending to do is provide the schools that the school system has selected, and Dr. Baldwin will be speaking about that in just a minute, is to provide 2 behavioral health specialists full-time for that school, a contract with a psychiatric nurse practitioner to help with medication management. We will also be providing more time of our school nurses, the supervisor as well as the school nurse, and nutrition services to that particular school. It's an intensive approach so that we can track these children and have more success than trying to do a scattergun approach, a shotgun approach to hitting lots of different schools but not being able to follow and to work intensively with kids who need that help. So I am pleased that Macon County continues to be innovative. I think we're building on a reputation of being concerned about behavioral health and being concerned about primary care and providing services where they're needed. So I think the more I see about state, the more I see that local is where the action takes place. Local is where we make a difference. And by your support and by the state's support for this effort in the school system and all the other partners that we worked with, we are now able to provide some direct services, some of which was addressed by the gentleman earlier today in the public comment section. So I think we're on the road. This is by no means the end-all to our issues, but it's a good start with a population that I think will benefit greatly. So I'd like to ask Dr. Baldwin if he could speak to that as well.
Well, I just want to thank Mr. Rocco, Mr. Rowland for recognizing the need that we have here in Macon County and for their support in securing these funds for our children. Just to add additional support to the need, found out today, I was reading an article, that the second leading cause of death in the United States for children aged 10 to 18 now is suicide in the United States. Second leading cause of death in the United States for ages 10 to 18. You know, what we're seeing in our school system now is, obviously we've all been concerned about the events that we saw in Parkland and in other schools across the nation. But
in our own school system, we're seeing needs, particularly in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade, that we've never experienced before, and we're ill-equipped to handle. So we're very excited about this grant. The school that we've selected to utilize a school-based health clinic is at South Macon. We chose that school because it's our largest elementary school, and it's also in close proximity to Union Academy. We hope that they can also reap some of the benefits of the school-based health clinic. So again, we're just very grateful for Mr. Rocco, Mr. Rowlands, and the County Commissioner's support.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Carl.
Yeah,
Very good.
that's outstanding. It's just another
team effort.
Fantastic example of our county kind of thinking outside of the box on how we may solve some of our larger problems that are affecting us as communities with some simple preventative measures. And I hope it's an outstanding success. Thank you for your work with that.
Thank you.
All right, the consolidated agreement.
Yes, sir. Every year, the Division of Public Health provides to us a statement, consolidated agreement, and I'll just read the first paragraph that we have between the state and the health department and the county. This agreement is made between the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Division of Public Health, otherwise known as the state, and the Macon County Public Health, otherwise known as Department, for the purposes of maintaining and promoting the advancement of public health in North Carolina. This agreement shall cover a period from July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and shall remain in force until the next fiscal year agreement is signed, except as provided for in Section J termination. This is a document that gives us guidance as to how we operate and what's expected of the health department when it comes to receiving state funds. And it would require the signature of the chairman of the county commissioners, which I'm glad to ask if we could do tonight, since it's due April 15th to the state. If at all possible, it would be helpful to have this action taken.
Get a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sills, second by Commissioner Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, before
Loop in. Okay.
Yeah, that's attached.
Got it.
before Carmen leaves, I would just like to make another announcement. He handed me this here, and what this is the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Communicable Disease Branch awarded our Public Health Center the 2019 Mighty Oak Award for the professionalism and the way in which they handled the recent meningitis outbreak that we had here in Macon County.
Wow.
So I
just
guess
wanted to
formally,
share that
if you would
with-
like to,
Mr. Chairman, you present.
Mr. Chairman, to if you would present this, or
However you'd like to do it. I'm
Sure, I'll walk
Carmen,
around.
if you want to hand it to the chairman up there for the media, and I'll walk around the front here. Oh, sorry.
I'm just pleased to let you know that we were acknowledged for our work at the meningitis outbreak that took place not too long ago. The state gives this award for those organizations that show strength and determination in dealing with public health and disease drug problems. And so I wanted to share this with you and with the board.
Thank you. I think it's interesting. I've never seen it. As the liaison, and a member of the Macon County Board of Health, I've sent through some updates and how our staff has dealt with that, the health department staff, and it's fascinating to me, but it also is a large level of comfort for me knowing that we have such a qualified, diligent, and professional team over there to deal with something that's very scary that y'all did, so thank you.
Yeah, so we're very pleased that things worked out the way we did. It was actually a very big team effort, not only of state individuals, but also locally. We've had help from the sheriff and Warren Cabe and others to help communicate what was going on. We did have one confirmed case and then a suspect case. and we have had no other cases since then. But we did have an active investigation of trying to identify people who have been exposed, and over 250 folks were treated for potential exposure with preventative medication, and we will continue to monitor the situation for the next year just to see if anything should show up. But I have to say, all the credit goes to the staff. They did an excellent job. They went above and beyond. They spent hours, weekends, just talking with people and making sure that we knew what we could do to help and to let them know that we were available if they had questions. So all I can say is you continue to have one of the best health departments in the state, I think, and having worked with others, and your support have allowed us to be the kind of department to be proud of. And I thank you for your support of us to do our jobs.
Sure, sounds good.
Thank you.
I thought I gave you better, but I didn't. Thank you. All right, item 9C, Planning Board update. Commissioner Gillespie.
The county commissioners tasked the planning board with going community to community. That first community meeting has taken place, and there's good news, bad news. First, the good news. Commissioner Higgin and I went and attended that meeting. It was a standing room only meeting. We didn't have any press coverage at that meeting, unfortunately, but the folks in Nantahala turned out. It's probably one of the best public meetings I've been to. It was very much a two-way conversation. They shared their concerns. It turned out to be a little bit different than what I had expected anyhow, in that there was the items that the planning board was tasked with assembling. Then there was some other items that were totally outside of the planning board's scope, but nonetheless are very important to that community. And I would anticipate that will probably be the same as we go from community to community. But we sat and listened and took notes and of what that community's concerns were. The planning board did their part. We came back, and with the help of Derek and Chris and Warren and the sheriff, the DOT, Duke Powers helping us, we've got a lot of wheels in motion to address some of the issues that Nantahala had. I don't think, and Paul can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think more than anything, there's some issues that they just want to have a better understanding of. And I think we've got stuff in motion to make that happen. So really great meeting. That's the good. The bad is Nantahala community set an extremely high mark, and it's going to be interesting to see if the rest of our communities turn out like Nantahala did. So I guess that's a challenge the rest of the communities to turn out. So Paul, if you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think it was a great meeting, and Nantahala residents were very responsive and appreciative of sending the planning board over there. Let's just be hopeful that something good comes out of it, and look forward to future meetings.
Carl, has there been, do you have specific dates set yet, or a plan so that the media can have?
It's the standard planning board meeting, which is the, Mike, help me out.
Third Thursday.
Thank you, sir. Next community meeting, the next meeting will be in the Cartagena community. It will be advertised. I don't know where it's going to be at, but for whatever reason, Cartagena was picked next. And I would encourage you, if you have time to come because it's a great meeting.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving on to old business. Item A, courthouse security project update. Sheriff Robert Holland. Welcome, Sheriff.
Unlike the first gentleman to speak, I am here asking for money. Actually, this is a continuation of our last meeting where we first spoke about courthouse security, the county manager and you as well directed us to go back and check some items that needed to be looked into. That has been done, and we're ready to move forward. I don't know exactly what we're supposed to do here tonight in discussing of those items, but you asked us to go back and look at those items, and we've done that. Do we have any of that?
Yes, I have the proposal with, as it stands here. And Sheriff, from what I understand, you were involved in this process, and everything that Jim, take one, just pass it down. And everything that that's on here is representative of what.
Correct.
The courthouse security.
Correct.
You feel comfortable with it?
I do.
I know that you worked with IT on it.
I do, and it's just like with any other profession. You know, I know my profession, but I have to rely on other people's professions and trust in my IT people, and I feel like that they've done an outstanding job, and I support what they find.
Basically, what you have in front of you is the courthouse security proposal here. It has the courthouse, and you'll notice two columns: fiscal year 19, fiscal year 20. What you'll see in fiscal year 19 is the first line there, courthouse security personnel increase. That is an actual increase to the budget in fiscal year 19 as a result of moving forward, adding 2 officers in this fiscal year as we have done. As I understand, the 2 x-ray machines and 2 metal detectors, the line below that, $71,713, were found on a state contract price. And lastly, the computer security and equipment, as I understand, that went through the informal bid process. We were able to get specifications for each of those devices, and this is what you see here is the lowest responsible bid as rendered by that informal bid process. So basically, what we're looking at here tonight is the $71,713 and the $451 for the NVR system, the 7 cameras for $5103.
Correct.
The door contacts and alarms for $3,666, and the 5 panic buttons for $1,569. That total amount is capital equipment in the amount of $82,502. And again, this comes at the request of the sheriff, who is representing the Courthouse Security Committee.
I think I need to stress again, this is after over a year of going over the courthouse security, the committee, which is 22 members. And if you've ever served on a committee, to have 22 people and 22 opinions is a real task. And this group has done an outstanding job of working together, meeting regularly, and finding some things, making suggestions, making recommendations. And so the judge did a final summary. And speaking of the judge assistant is here tonight, and she tortured her husband and made him come with her tonight. But it's just been a long process, and this is going to be a big change. We're going to have a serious change within our courthouse. We've toured other courthouses. We've gone to multiple courthouses throughout Western North Carolina. Haven't really gone anything out east, beside the legislative building and things like that. But out west, we've seen how they're doing it in theirs, and since they're already in place, you know, we've also went as far as even asking them making suggestions of, now that you've been in place and you have for a couple of years or more, what changes would you make now so we don't have to make those corrections later on. So we've taken a lot of that into consideration. It's just been a really long process, and I know the judge is anxious for us to, I know that he feels like that things are, being pushed on down the road, but he totally understands that it's been a very thorough endeavor that we've participated in, and he's been extremely patient with us.
Remind the board, Sheriff, about the timeline. If we approve tonight, the timeline of getting the equipment, getting it installed.
It's going to take several weeks for us to get the equipment. What we want to make sure that we do is allow us to get the equipment set up, get the officers trained, and be able to use that equipment. While safety is the #1 priority for us, the second thing that's really important, it was to this committee, is to not be a hindrance to not only the employees within this courthouse, but also to the public that is coming. People aren't used to coming to county commissioner meetings and having to go through this process. And we want to make sure that we are set and we're ready to go, trained, and take as little time as possible so when people do come through that door. That's the reason why we have 2 entrances. In all reality, it'd be a lot cheaper to only do 1 entrance. We'll probably be the only courthouse between here and Asheville that I know of that has 2 entrances. Most of them have 1, but the reason we're doing that, and the committee felt it was important, is because of the way this courthouse is set up, handicap accessible. You've got Main Street out front, which is a lower level, and then the parking in the back, which is upper. And so that's why we're doing 2. And so between now and the next budget, you'll see a lot of changes taking place, but we won't actually be able to put it into effect until after the budget, the next budget. And it's going to take that long to get people trained and get the equipment installed and make sure that we're able to do everything without causing any inconveniences and doing it right. We want to make sure from the get-go we're doing it right.
Sure. Can you tell us, I know just for being on that committee, and I'm asking this question for other people to know, or can you relay the various consultants that also came through and gave us recommendations on?
We had the Marshal Service came in. You talking about the surveys? The Marshal Service came in. The North Carolina Sheriff's Association came in, and then we just had another group that came in and has done a survey. What's the name of our company that we just met with? Mosley Architects. They've come through.
We haven't got theirs back yet, though.
Yeah, but we've been able to talk about it a little bit, and then I think there's a third. Is there a third one? The committee did one as well.
Right.
We did one. And the good thing about it is none of those reports were done before another report. We got them all at the same time. And so it wasn't like we got to had an opportunity to study somebody's report and then imitate their report. They all came at like that. So it worked out good. And pretty much on the same page.
Can you refresh my memory, please, on just the staffing of how that'll work?
It'll take 6 people. Maybe 3 people will be on the 3rd floor, and then 3 people will be on the 2nd floor. You'll have 2 people that are always maintaining the equipment there, the X-ray machine as well as the metal detector, and then you'll have a 3rd person, and they'll just be there in the area to be able to. And I'll use an example. Just 2 weeks ago, I was at the legislative building, and you see 3 people as I walked in, and as soon as they realized I was law enforcement, they pulled me aside and they wanted to make sure I didn't have a firearm on me. And so that 3rd person that was there escorted me over to here. Well, unbeknownst to me, there was a 4th person, and he just immediately took that other guy's position. So there was no slowing down in the process. And what a lot of people don't understand is how many people come into our courthouse. Myself and Vic Perry and a couple of us figured it up the other day. Over 50,000 people come into this courthouse to utilize our judicial system, whether it be the clerk of court's office, the courts. That doesn't include the people that are coming to mapping, to the clerk's office, to the county manager's office. That's a lot of people. And then on court days, you know, you're looking at some days you got a 500 people court docket, 400 and 500 people on a
Court day is every day.
We have court all the time. We had 248 sessions of court this year.
And how will you handle vacation, sick leave, whatever else might pop up?
Just like with every other position that we have, we'll utilize part-time and also overtime. It's one of the reasons, to be honest, I'm stressing the 3 people to each one, which is the 6, is because we can never do it with 2 people. And if you have those 2 people and you have somebody call in sick, or somebody's in court, or God forbid, it happens all the time, you have a struggle in the courtroom or out in the hallway, somebody gets in a fight, that person's immediately going to be drawn to that situation, and then you're going to be stopped. Anybody, whether there's a commissioner meeting about to start or court, and everything's going to be delayed, it's going to be shut down, and we can't let that happen, because they'll be calling you complaining that they got called and failed to court because we had courthouse shut down.
But just to make clear, you will have other courthouse security here besides what's.
Oh, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Just to make clear that no, they're not the only one.
No,
that'll be
their responsibility. And all of courthouse security will be responsible for learning to utilize this equipment. Everybody that works in this unit will be responsible, because if you put one person there running the X-ray machine 5-6 days a week, 51 weeks out of the year, they're going to burn out. They're not going to stay. They're going to go find another job. But everybody that works in this unit will be trained and responsible for working that equipment. That way, when you have somebody that's going to be out on vacation or in training or in Superior Court next week because they're having to testify in a trial because somebody snuck something 6 months ago tried to in the courthouse and got caught, they'll have to testify in court. And so you'll have people that'll just fall into place and be already trained and available to do that.
So there's 6 people for the machines, and how many other officers will there be in courthouse security?
You've got a total right now. You've got your lieutenant, you got your sergeant, and you got your 2 bailiffs currently right now.
4. So there'll be 10 officers in the courthouse.
Didn't you already fill 2 of those this year, though?
Yep.
So you've got 6, right?
Yep.
6 currently.
Correct.
And you'll add 4 in the new year for 10.
Oh, that's
total.
right, yeah.
Total of 10.
10.
10 officers. Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about $167,970 that will need to be appropriated.
82,502, right?
No, sir, 82,502.
For
The
the
126,348 is already in.
Okay.
In the budget, and the increase in operating supplies would not be needed. The 15,000.
We're talking about
82,502, and again, that's capital equipment. Moving into the fiscal year 20 column, you see we got all the 82.5 will take care of the capital. Then you're going to have an additional, if the route is chosen to go with the 6 deputies, you're going to have an additional $373,432 in operating increase in fiscal year 20, and another $23,520, and that is the extended warranty on those 2 X-ray machines. So that would be basically you're going to have that. The total cost of the 6 new officers will be, of course, perpetual in operating.
And the sheriff and I have had the conversation more than once about do we need 3 people at each machine? Because after going through the Senate multiple times and in Washington, there's only 2.
That you see.
that, well, it don't matter if we see them or not, that's all we thought, that's all it's there. So, you know, if we needed 3, then, you know, if we got 50,000 people, what you really gonna need is on court day. That's when the majority of the people come in. So, we've looked at different scenarios. At the end of the day, you know, if we could do it with 2, it would certainly save a lot of money, number one. But if you have to come back and add that person, which we talked about, if you have to come back and add them, or if you have to use one of your sergeants down here doing this to take him out of the courtroom, because this has got to stay active regardless. So that's the quandary when you get into wanting 6 personnel, and 10 personnel sounds like a lot in this courthouse. But it ain't a lot when something happens.
Absolutely.
So that's the quandary that I thought 2 would be plenty, but after discussing with the sheriff, and it may end up 2 is good, and you can always take that 3rd person and put them somewhere else if you see that they're not useful.
Right.
Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Lori, does this 373 number, does that assume all 6 is that the beginning salary for deputies in that number?
I prepared this like 2 months ago, so
Right,
I don't
right.
remember. It is for 6, but I don't remember at what salary. I think 2 of them was the 2 he promoted from within or moved, so they were at higher salaries. The other 4 people are assuming coming in at a base level deputy.
See, what happens is, and I'll give you an example, one of my sergeants that's worked the road for many years, he turned 70 years old, and he's a sergeant and done an outstanding job. And so he wanted one of those courthouse security positions. So I took him and put him over in the courthouse security to fill one of those positions. Of course, he's at a higher rate, but I'm going to hire somebody new at the beginning salary of a new deputy to take his place over here. But it comes out of a different line item. So it makes it a little difficult.
So
But it's the same as I hired a new person to take this place and put an experienced officer and put him over in the courthouse security.
But at the end of the day, Mr. Chairman, as liaison of the sheriff's department, we've had, and you've been in all these meetings too, you know, we think they've done the due diligence on the equipment. So if we can go ahead and get this equipment ordered ASAP and get it on the way, because you are going to see, I understand, Sheriff, correct me if I'm wrong, you are going to see an increase in cost of the equipment sometime in the summertime. If that's, if I understood that.
It's the same with
and
any
it could be up
computer
as much as 10 or 15 to 20%. So if we can go ahead and get the equipment ordered, if the board sees fit to, at least get the equipment here and start training what personnel you need to. Because if it's going to take weeks, that could be, we're already in April. See, July's right around the corner, so. You think we'll have it ready by 1st of July? If we can get it ordered, if we get it approved, Sheriff?
I mean, that's what we're going to be shooting for.
That's right out of your hands.
It's out of my hand. I am not going to put it in place until we're absolutely ready and everybody's trained and ready to go, because I don't want any mistakes. I want it to be done right.
Connie, I think you bring up a valid point, or at least something to consider. You know, July 1st is around the corner. We're talking about $82,000 expenditure in mid-budget. I mean, I know we want to move on this as soon as possible, but it seems like there's been more courthouse security meetings I've been to than commissioners meetings.
It's been a lot.
It's, you know, gone on for
year and a half.
Year or so. I guess my question would be, why don't we start it in next year's budget instead of, I mean, you know, if it's an emergency, we need to do it, that's fine, but I don't hardly see it as being an emergency. But, you know, if this is what we need to do, the due diligence has been done, let's put it in through the budget process.
I believe, Commissioner Gillespie, what we talked about, and this is talking with the sheriff and the county manager, is just try to get a start on the 3 months it's going to take. Because if you wait till July, then you're looking at July, August, September
October.
to have, or October to have it in place. We're just trying to get ahead of the 3-month. You know, when they say weeks, we all know when we order something now. That was the whole purpose, I think, right, County Manager, Mr. County Manager, is to get ahead of the.
Yeah, or you want to, so you're saying you want to go ahead and get everything now so you can get it set up and ready to roll on July 1?
That's our goal, is to try to make that happen. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're going to be ready to go July 1. We won't know. I mean, we've got to order the equipment. We've got to get the guys trained. We got to get everything going. But that's our goal, is to try to get it set for July 1. But we're willing, and I know the judge is willing to do whatever you all recommend to us and support.
Well, just talking to you, Sheriff, and the chairman, and you know, once you recognize the problem, it is your problem.
It worries me. Now that we've seen it, and now that we've put it in black and white, and it's right there in front of me, I mean, I understand you guys are going to catch the blame too, but when it comes right down to it, I'm the one that's going to be out there on the front line that's having the finger pointed at them and lawsuits filed against. And so now that I know some things that aren't very public, it worries us to death.
After I watched that in Panama City, Florida, I'm a believer.
Any further comments or questions?
You need a motion for that? Go ahead.
You get the equipment started.
You'd have to have a budget amendment, because we don't have 82,502 appropriated, so you'd have to do a budget amendment from fund balance.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that, because of the timeline, more or less, and this is for equipment purchases, that we do a budget amendment from fund balance for the total of $82,502, and authorizing the sheriff and county manager and our attorney to review and make sure all the things that are in the proposal are still in the proposal at the price given.
Right.
So I make that in form of a motion. We go ahead and approve that tonight, and give them the county manager, sheriff, and our council and the chairman the ability to go ahead and make this order for the equipment.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Bill, a second by Commissioner Chills to make the budget amendment to move the money from fund balance in the amount of
82,502.
$82,502. I'd like to make a few comments. Is there anybody else that would like to? Go ahead, Paul.
Since this is kind of pushed on us by the state, is there any help from the state economically on this?
Is there on anything else? No, sir. Nothing.
Have they given us a deadline to do it?
No, the judge has been very patient with us. I mean, we've been on this for nearly a year and a half, and he's been real patient with us.
Because the realization is the judge can shut her down.
But there's a reason that the judge sends her here. He's very concerned about it, and he's keeping track of it. It's something that's right there on his mind, and that's exactly why she's here. And I think that she can go back and show that we've been, definitely working on this. We've had lots of meetings. She's been at every one of the meetings. The judge has been at all the meetings except one, I believe. Talked to him today, and he would be here if he wasn't in a trial in another county.
Any other comments?
Just to reiterate, I have concerns about doing it in mid-budget year. I was on that committee, and I think I made most of the meetings myself, and understand the urgency behind it. As a side note, we do these for a living, so we're very familiar with the timelines that are set forth by various agencies and folks. So I think it's certainly something that we need to move forward with, but I don't necessarily agree that it's something that we shouldn't. I think it's something that should go through the budget process.
Anybody else? I don't, Commissioner Gillespie, I don't agree with you at all. I mean, I'm sorry. I understand where you're coming.
okay.
I understand where you're coming from, but I disagree with you on that approach and the fact that just my own personal feeling on it is I don't honestly think God forbid something happened, but if I knew I held it up by 2 weeks or something over some issue, I don't know if I could stand myself over that. So I'm with that. My biggest hiccup with it as a commissioner is just, get on my soapbox, it's just more government growth. It seems like every time we turn around, we're at another position here, we're at another position there, but unfortunately in today's society, it's just a matter of battling the beast, and it's just something that's unfortunately got to happen. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, this probably wouldn't have even necessarily been a question, but today it's what it's coming to. So we've got to stay in front of it. So I will support it. So anyway, didn't mean that. All right, I'll call the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
4-1, Mr. Decker, with Mr. Gillespie opposed.
Thank you all.
Sheriff.
Thank you.
So we can get together real soon and get it rolling?
Yeah.
I did.
Absolutely.
Like tonight?
Came out wrong, around the bush. Yeah.
Ryan, we're not done.
All right, item 10B, Dog Park Project Update. Seth Adams, Parks and Recreation Director.
Hand out.
Thanks, sir.
If y'all recall, we had met with Seth, was it last month or the month before?
Month before.
Okay.
February
And,
meeting.
Tasked him with going back and get us some estimates. As we all know, we're going to have to move our current dog park from where it is behind Wesley's Park to a new location. The Recreation Commission has been studying this issue diligently, and as we had talked about 2 months ago, we found a new location off of in the Frogtown area.
Yes.
What's the name of the road there?
Frogtown.
Phillips Street. Yep.
Okay. And then we tasked Seth with going back and getting us some costs to actually build this park and put it together. Go ahead, Seth. I'll let you take it from there, and I'm sure I'll be adding more.
Okay. Like you said, you guys tasked me 2 months ago to come before y'all with some real prices. So I met with a grading contractor who went out there. It looks flat now, but it is actually very rough. There's stumps up and rocks everywhere. So that is not a final grade from what it is now. To get the final grade, the site prep for the bathroom, the sewer and water lines ran to the connectors. Where we're going to put the bathroom is basically right in the middle of a manhole for the sewer and the water tap from the town. So the ditches are going to be a pretty good ways. And if you drove by lately, there's always standing water right in the middle of that field. So we're thinking there's probably going to be required a yard drain of something in the ground to get rid of that water. To expand the parking lot a little bit further down and sow it with grass. That total somewhere in the ballpark of $15,000 to $20,000, depends on if they can get enough soil on site to put a good topsoil on that will help grow grass. Bathroom facility is a very simple two bathroom, 2 8x8 stalls. That total came to $39,000. Fencing and the gates comes to $16,000. The watering stations, we need 2 of them at $1,953. That comes to $3,906. The dog waste stations, we need 3 of them at $230 a piece, comes to $690. And benches, there'll need to be 6 out there. At $600 a piece, comes to $3,600. So your subtotal, depending on what the final grading cost is, somewhere in the neighborhood of $78,196 to $83,196. If you add a 15% contingency to that, which is $12,479, your total is $95,675. Some additional items that need to be addressed: a basic irrigation system at $6,500, just in case we get drought. We don't want to build it and grass not grow. It needs to be done nice if the county is doing it. And if we pave the parking lot, that's $9,282 with a total of $111,457.
How much is the total amount of property that's going to be enclosed with a fence?
A little over 2 acres.
It's going to about, what, triple the size? Is that what
The small dog park will more than double. It won't quite triple, but from what it is now, and the spot for the big dogs will triple in size.
And it'll be full.
I would say so. After the article made the paper, I wouldn't have guessed it, but my phone rang off the hook for people asking when it's gonna open. You know, when we think that we'll actually see it out there.
I know the Lippies are here in support. Yeah.
The reason for moving it, I think I heard where waste was getting in the river.
It's two reasons. One is it's under, we have fencing underneath the Duke power lines. They request them to be moved in their right of way. And 2 is this part of the, Chester, help me, the Clean Water Management Trust Fund.
There are conservation easements, and by the terms of those easements, it really should not be there. And Frogtown is not part of that.
Mr. Chairman, can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
Spent a few days at Franklin High School for a year, and I've seen plans for this area there.
Mm-hmm.
If we ever upgrade Franklin High School, this dog park is going to be in question. From the blueprints that I've seen for future, I've seen soccer fields, tennis fields, and everything else there, and talked to one of my former superintendents, and we both talked about, you know, if we follow the previous blueprints for the upgrading of Franklin High School, this dog park, I'm for it, could be subject to, in question again, to be moved.
And if it comes to that point, we're talking about fencing on that side. The only building I don't think is in that blueprint will be that bathroom facility, which is on the, basically as you're going back up the hill to get out of the, basically the 100-year flood zone. We're having to build further on the town side, you know how it comes up. So you're talking about if we lose anything, all we're doing is losing fencing and the little bit of parking that we had on that street. If plans arise that area is needed, you know, for something else.
I think it's a good thing.
See if I won't get tongue-tied in saying this. I agree with Commissioner Gillespie on this one.
Yeah,
and the fact I think this one can go into the budget process, I see no rush, and that would be my recommendation. If somebody would be willing to make that into a motion.
What do you say, Mr. Manager? Money's money. It don't matter if it's in this budget or next budget. It's got to all come from the same pot. Right?
Yep, we'll make it work however you guys want to make it work.
That's not a good answer, Derek. What kind of answer is that?
If there's 3 of y'all that think it's a good idea, I think it's a great idea.
Well, there again, Mr. Chairman, I mean, this money, you know, we know we're going to spend the money. I mean, we know we can put it in next year's budget. The only thing we're really doing is losing 3 months. We could be working on a dog park for the summertime. I mean, really and truly, you know, being in the building business, you don't postpone things. If we've had enough rain and stuff, we don't want to postpone. Money is going to come out of the same pot. So I would encourage us to go ahead and approve, not to exceed. Do you want to do the additional items? Now, some of those items, how long will it take to build it, Seth? If you could get everything wound up.
The grading contractor said that he could be out of there in a week.
But could he start in a week if it dries up?
That I do not know. I would say that they could probably. I mean, obviously at that cost, it would be something that we'd have to.
What kind of construction timeline if he starts the 1st of April? Or 1st of May? It would be hard to start 1st of April.
Yeah. I mean, the majority of these things will have to be bid. You know, they're over our threshold. So
6 weeks, 8 weeks.
I'd say at least 8 to 10.
What's the threshold for new construction? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
What's the threshold for new construction formal bid? 350?
You're not going to have to do, it's 500.
Yeah.
You don't have to do formal bids,
We'll
but
do
you are going to have to do informal bidding.
So we won't have to go through the formal bid
You don't have to
process.
go
I just
through the
wanted that to be
paper and all
clear.
The amounts are sufficient to get it into the informal range.
That'd make it a lot quicker.
Seth, what's the ongoing
You got to
cost?
develop specifications like the bathroom facility. Are you going to have an architect design that, or like?
I do have a plan.
Okay, you have a plan,
already.
okay.
Yes, that's
You're not going to have no trouble getting hooked to the system, are you?
should not have. Hopefully.
We have a sort of a handshake agreement. That
Yes.
Town of Franklin will take care of that for us.
With that sewer line, I don't know where that sewer line is too.
What's the ongoing cost, Seth?
Actually just keeping it cut. Sending a maintenance guy with a zero turn out there, fertilizing and
You know, lock the bathrooms the same way you do with the greenway? Or they can stay open 24/7?
I don't know that 24/7. We discussed this at the rec commission meeting this afternoon. This is a dawn to dusk facility. We don't really want people to be out there after dark, but the bathrooms, so many people walk town, and that's going to be one huge asset of this park is that public restroom there. I would actually probably be safe in saying that restroom will be used more by walkers than it will be by people actually at the dog park. So I think that we may just have some patrol come by and keep an eye on it a little more regular.
Did you say the town said they were going to maintain it?
What are you going to do?
It's going to be lighting there?
That there's already one street light, but we are going to get with Duke to see how much. We don't want to light the park itself.
If you're going to invite folks to come in there and use it after dark, you
There-
can get some lighting there.
The bathroom facility itself and the entrance will be lit. The whole park will not be lit.
We'll get a vote on it.
Yes, sir. I think you had a question. Yes, sir.
We're talking about, what, $90-something thousand?
Yeah.
Correct.
95. Well, 111 if you spend everything, James.
Is the main purpose of this to take dogs out of where people are offended, they want to go out and walk without having dogs poop and being around them and everything? Because I've heard that's a problem on the Greenway where they've set up walking areas. The dogs come in and take it over. And a lot of people are left out that don't like that. So what are we, I mean, that's a lot of money could be used to me for something else. I don't know. It just got to me now, I guess, this issue of this much money, where you're talking about animals, when you got a lot of human needs that you could use that money for. That's a lot of money. Why could you not take and walk your dog and go to a government road, or take your dog somewhere and walk it, and let this $95,000 go for services that you really need, or I feel like.
Thank you. Anyone else like to? All right. Questions, thoughts? Where we going?
Do y'all want to wait till the budget? I'll make a motion we spend the money now. I mean, there's no reason to kick it down the good road. I mean, you're just gonna wait three more months for a dog park.
I think it needs to be worked, and, you know, needs to be part of the budget process. So we'll have a budget.
When you say part of during the budget process, does that mean you want us to incorporate it into the CIP? Will that be, so that would become, in other words, that would become a priority on CIP for this coming fiscal year?
It's improvement, it's capital improvement. I mean, although the purpose of having that thing or waiting on it was to get a lot of this stuff, capital improvements in that plan, so that's just me.
We're gonna have a CIP, let's use it.
It's $111,000.
Not use it.
But the thing about this ain't something to surprise. I mean, we've talked about this thing for how long? Ever since they told us we had to tear that one down, Jimmy brought it to the board.
A year, I bet.
Yeah.
It's over a year old.
I personally, I don't care which way it goes. I just want to see it done.
Well, yeah, it's got to be. It's a need.
The grass growing, and obviously you're the
What
expert
would you
in
think,
that.
Ted? How would you like? Would you like to go ahead and start it now?
I would at least like to do the grading and to get the grass sown during prime grass growing weather. Because if not, I think if we started basically in July and it took 8 weeks, you're going to be out of that window and you may be in mud until next year.
Longer than July.
Yeah.
Because once you approve the budget, then you got to put your bids out. You got to do all that. You're looking at August, September, October, November.
That's my only concern is that we'd be next spring sowing it again and then having a good stand of grass.
Sitting here a long time. You kick her down a month, you're looking at 4 months.
All right, so it's just semantics. I think we're all in agreement it needs to happen. If I'm catching everybody's feel correctly, it's just a matter on when we spend it. Mr. Manager, would you have a recommendation on how you prefer to do it?
I think if you all are wanting to do it in the budget process next year, what we'll do is simply just incorporate that into the capital improvement plan and move that up into a priority position for fiscal year 20.
Yes, no? Okay. I'm good.
Well, I make a motion to spend the money now and go ahead and start this baby and do the grading and
Ms.
plant.
Huffey's in favor. She seconded.
And plant the grass and we're just kicking the can down the road for no reason. There's just no reason to wait. We've talked about this for a year. It's been a need for a long time. Ever since they told us that we had to move down there. So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve not to exceed $111,457 for the Macon County Dog Park.
Second. Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Shields. Let me throw out my thoughts on that real quickly. Let me gather them. I think that one way or the other, the money will come out of fund balance one way or the other, whether it's next year or this year. So I don't think it much matters, but I do. I'm gathering my thoughts again. I hate to see us at the same time. I want to see us set a precedent that where we're getting away from where we're going to be going with our capital improvement plan, but we don't have the capital improvement plan necessarily in hand yet. So, okay, I'm talking myself into it.
The CIP is technically 150K or more to qualify for inclusion. So
I was going to say, in the scheme of things, this is relatively small.
Oh, yeah.
6 one way, half a dozen the other.
Yeah.
Spend that fund balance,
All right. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, what did, being with the frog liaison, what was the update with them? I wasn't at the last meeting. Regarding
the under the bridge?
Yeah.
We're just waiting on permitting.
When we moved the dog park from that arena down there to this, their concern was do it quickly.
Yeah, they're ready for it to be gone too.
Yeah.
I think that they kind of, from the day that they put it up, realized that wasn't the ideal spot for it. So
we discussed it at one of our, not our last board meeting, but the previous board meeting, and they wanted to go ahead and have it moved and done away with.
Yeah.
I guess the beavers are competing with it. And on that board, and I told them that we would move it as quick as possible.
Okay.
All right. Any further comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Commissioners Gillespie and Higdon opposing. Thank you, Seth.
All right, thank you.
So you get started right now, Seth?
Okay.
And that was from fund balance, right?
That's exactly right. That's the only place we got it.
Yeah.
And if, while Seth's leaving, we will be meeting with the DOT, next Tuesday, if I got my dates right, about the paving, that section. So we'll be meeting with them. They did look at it and said, do what? So we're gonna, I think they come up with a little game plan, so we'll be meeting, I believe it's, I'll make sure, Mr. Chairman, and whoever, manager, whoever needs to be there, but I think that's next Tuesday.
Okay.
A week from today.
What can I tell the farm board? That you're gonna be moving it ASAP. We hope to have this next one's, dog park.
3 weeks.
July
Put the
1,
pressure
is that
on.
what you're saying?
Depends on how the bid process goes and how busy the contractors are. I mean,
we're slowing down.
And if that's the case, you know, it took act of Congress to get them to come out and look at this thing, you know, to start
You
with.
call the right one.
I know, but
But July 1, though, I can tell that with July 1, we hope to have it moved.
I probably, yes.
Okay. At least we can have that as a projected date.
Yes.
Okay.
Projected date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
All right, comprehensive plan. I guess we're gonna set a public hearing.
Yes, and I had spoken with Jack earlier in the day, and he had mentioned he felt like maybe August, perhaps, when the budget was finished and we were able, because we're coming up right now in April with budget work sessions, and May with, you know, budget work sessions, more of, and then going on into approval in June. So again, that comprehensive plan is, we have to have one of those still to be included in the comprehensive transportation plan.
Let me make sure, will your community meetings be over by then, Carl? Because you probably might have to go back and revisit it. So that, but
They will not be over.
But then they may have to go back and, after the community meetings,
Are you
the
taking
planning board
input
may.
on
The planning board does not anticipate that anything that comes out of those will impact the comprehensive plan.
When we did that, you know, we had to go back.
Yeah, well, it was kind of we went first to every community with the comprehensive plan, but here what I'm saying is what I'm hearing is with the revision, you guys are talking about more community-specific issues rather than general.
That's correct.
And I do think, you know, that comprehensive plan, the board, it is only recommendations for the future, and recommendations in all aspects, dealing with everything from education to transportation. So adopting that comprehensive plan is simply adopting those recommendations, and they're non-binding on this board or future boards. I just think, you know, we should keep that in mind while reading it, and you know, it kind of what it does is it lays a blueprint for these different functions such as transportation and education. It lays a blueprint for the future of those.
Mr. Manager, not to go against what you're saying, but since we're in the mood tonight, I'm not kicking the can down the road. The board has had that report for several months. I don't anticipate a whole lot of opposition to it. I would encourage the board to set that date at the next available slot, next available meeting. Let's go ahead and have that public hearing and move on.
We can set it next meeting now. Is that the, will our May meeting, is that the budget presentation, Lori?
Yes.
Okay, do you guys want to have that public hearing the same night as budget
No.
presentation? Is it?
No, I wouldn't.
I don't expect that, well, I wouldn't expect the comprehensive plan public hearing to garner much. I think it'll be really quick.
Okay, we can do it. We'll set it up for May.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, we've completed item 11A. Item 11B, consideration of resolutions and interlocal agreement regarding Satula Radio Communications Site. Mr. Warren Cave, Emergency Services Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome, Warren.
My request involves no money, so it should be very short.
Motion to approve.
In your packet, there should be a
This is the first
resolution.
motion he's made in 4 years. We don't need to second it.
In your packet, there should be a resolution to enter into and an interlocal agreement with the town of Highlands for the joint operation of an emergency communication site that serves the greater Highlands area. It's actually located on Worley Road, but it's more commonly known to us as Satula Mountain. It's not a new site. I came around in 1992 and it's been in existence since then, but it's obviously been improved over the years. The agreement basically was up for renewal. We went through the process to look at all of the instances of the original agreement. Town of Highlands owns the property. Macon County owns the tower, the building, the generator, and we both own some equipment that's either in the building or on the tower. Basically, we have clarified some of the roles and responsibilities as far as to of who's all's involved with the agreement. The only real change to that agreement, the one request that the town of Highlands had was that if we ever make any significant changes to that tower, that we add a 10-foot section to the tower so they'll have room to put some broadband internet equipment there on the tower. Tower's currently full, so there's no room for them to put anything on it. So that was their only request. So we have added that into this agreement, and we don't plan on making any changes. We're fine the way we are, but if we ever do, we put that into this agreement. Basically, Chester's already reviewed it on our behalf. Town of Highlands attorneys already reviewed it on their behalf, and they're submitted it to their board at their next meeting for approval. And we're requesting tonight that you approve this interlocal agreement and resolution for us to continue using that communication site in Highlands.
All right, can we get that? And I think Commissioner Higgin already made that motion.
Well, one question.
Second.
To improve their
Second.
broadband,
Yes.
did they entertain the cost of improving the tower?
They did not. That was not part of the original agreement. Basically, I think the implication was that if we had to rebuild that tower, we would add one more section for them. And I will speak on behalf of the town of Highlands. We've had a very good working relationship with them on this site. If you'll notice that, and for those of you that are familiar with that area, you can't just put a tower anywhere you want to right through there, and our tower is one of the camouflage ones, but it's still a lattice tower. Right behind it, there's one of the pine tree cell phone towers, so we're pretty fortunate to be where we're at. So I personally don't think that's a big issue.
Yeah, we've agreed to maintain it the way it is presently, and there's a provision in there that basically says the parties may agree to amend. But of course, the amendment would require the agreement at that time by both parties. Motion to approve.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner Higdon.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bell.
One question for you and Chester, I guess. I read through it and I didn't see this. There's nothing in that agreement that would prohibit the county from, and I ask this because the town of Highlands has broadband interest, prevent the county from putting radios up there.
No, sir.
Full broadband.
No, sir. No, there is not.
In fact, there's protection for that.
Yeah, the only issue you would have would be coordinating the frequency to make sure you don't have interference issues, but other than that, no.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Warren.
All
Thank
right.
you, Warren.
This is getting to be a common occurrence here. Occupancy tax penalty waiver request from Michael and Kristen Kopenick. Pronounce that right? Kopenick?
Do you have any comments, Chester? You want me to just jump in?
That you presented, I've not spoken with either of them, and I assume they're not here.
No, they're not.
Have they asked you to present
They
this for
have.
them?
Yes. I spoke with Mr. Kopenick on the phone today, just to double check and make for sure. But yes, they owed July through November 2018. They didn't remit those occupancy tax until February 13th of 2019. So of course, the way our legislation is currently written, that's $10 per day for every day past the due date. So the $10 per day penalty totaled $5,690. The 5% penalty was $50.22 for a total of $5,740.22. I emailed all of you a letter yesterday, and I also put a copy at your desk. And I think, as Chester has advised before, or he can speak, that you do have the ability to compromise or forgive the penalties for good cause shown. So
Correct.
Did we set that $10 a day?
No, the legislature.
The legislature said it, but it gave us the ability, there's something where it's written, I remember.
No, it gave you the ability to
Compromise.
It gave you that ability, and then furthermore, it gave you the choice to either elect to have an occupancy tax the way they drew it, or not have an occupancy tax.
Yeah, it was either one way or the other.
If you want to get rid or have those penalties revisited, I don't know if this is the right time to discuss it. You're going to have to go back to the legislature. It's not something this board can handle.
but in accordance with what you have done in the previous request, you have chose to waive the $10 per day and have, charged them the 5% penalty, which in their case, they would owe $50.22 in penalty if you chose to go that route.
That assumes you believe that what they've set
Yes,
forth is good cause.
good cause shown, right.
I'm gonna say the same thing I have with the last two, and that is that we've got so many people that aren't paying the tax at all, and they're not getting any penalty because we know they're there, but we don't know they're there. And then you've got somebody trying to do the right thing, and we get a penalty. And
Are they paid up?
Yes, they are paid up, yes.
Did you
She
say we
puts
had
in-
the authority as a board to abolish the occupancy tax statute? No, not the statute. You could abolish the occupancy tax that the county chose to implement pursuant to this statutory authority. You see, the tax didn't come from the state. The authority to levy the tax came from the state, and then the county took that authority and basically did what they needed in order to levy a occupancy tax.
And that's 3%.
3%.
3% of the room cost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not in favor of an occupancy tax. I don't.
What does that mean to our tax base?
Wouldn't do anything. It goes to the TDA, doesn't it?
Well,
it's supposed to replace for your Chamber of Commerce's, and
go flows through that.
and it's set that 100% of that basically has to be spent on the promotion of
tourism into the area.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I make a proposal. I'm reading her proposal. I make a motion that we agree with Michael and Christine Kopernek's proposal that they pay a $250 fee waiving the balance.
Okay. Got a motion by
For good
Commissioner
cause,
Bill,
sure.
a second by Commissioner Gillespie. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 11D, resolution exempting engineering services for landfill leachate. Is that French? System improvements from general statutes provisions.
It means you don't drink it. That's
You
what
better
that
not.
leachate means. You don't drink it.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think there was a copy of this
There is.
In the agenda package.
in the agenda package. Basically, the purpose of this is it's a completion of the Phase 3 cell construction. I removed this piece of construction from the original, before we got into design. Just didn't want to address it. Y'all may remember how panicked I was as far as timing. So we've got everything else going. We're getting ready to open the landfill, and so would like to make these changes to the improvements to the leachate system that will serve all 3 landfill cells in association with treatment of that going into the wastewater treatment plant. We have a proposal here and asking for an exemption of the RFP process just to complete this project with the engineers that already know a lot about what's going on.
In this particular situation, utilizing this engineer makes a tremendous amount of sense. There's been a tremendous amount of engineering activity in this area. As you may or may not know, the county runs its leachate from the landfill through the wastewater treatment plant of the town of Franklin pursuant to a interlocal agreement, and I think there are several of them, and several different leases and whatnot. This particular engineer, I think, has been at the helm of each and every segment of that project. We're getting ready as part of this project to have to work with the town of Franklin to bring about these changes.
Who is the engineer?
McGill Associates. It's
How do you frequent flyer miles ago?
Make long story short, if you change engineers, whoever you bring in, I think is going to have a lot of homework to do before they could even get started.
Yeah.
What do you think the cost of this is going to be?
The construction cost?
No, the engineering fee.
The engineering fee. Well, we have 48.3 as the estimate.
Do you think that's what it's going to be?
Yes. I will say that why we are seeking the exemption so that we can move forward. We would like to have the authority to execute, but this will not automatically be an executed proposal. Chester can expound as well, but we have to involve the sewer plant. We have had them involved. I've engaged with them, but what we want to do is automate this system so that we have better control, historic data. We have a system that we can control 24 hours a day. If we get a big rain, a big slug of water that might go into our leachate lagoon, be pumped into the headworks of the plant, can be disruptive to the plant. And so we want to put in a system that's going to allow us to automate, allow us to stay within our legal parameters of how much water we store on top of that liner so that we don't have a breach, and also not disrupt the plant processes.
If the county were to not do this and put this out to bid, Mr. Manager, what would be the cost to the county for
It's not a bid process.
It's not.
What you would be doing is a request for qualifications of various engineers.
Then you get the cost afterward.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't ask for cost in that type of QBS qualified based services.
Staff time in putting the proposals together,
Yeah.
and staff time in the RFQ process of sitting down, and you got to rank every one of them based on the point criteria. So we'll be developing that criteria, and administrative time associated with meeting and having a committee established to review that, the RFQs.
So this wouldn't require any additional manpower. It would all be within the current budget.
You'd have to run an advertisement in the newspaper.
But you have the opportunity to have the conversation we talked about you're having with Lori about payment for this project.
We did speak.
Anything to report on that? I think perhaps there may be some concern about where the money's coming from for this project. And if I'm hearing Commissioner Gillespie correctly, you might want to address that if you have some answers.
Okay, well, sorry, I should have mentioned. Both the construction and the engineering we would look to take from the remaining funds available in the original bond loan for the construction of Cell 3. This would not be out of my retained assets or any other budget line item. It would be out of funds already existing that haven't been expended.
All right. Further comments, questions, motions, thoughts?
I mean, if I may ask one additional question.
Yes, sir.
Did you have the opportunity to go back and look and see if this particular phase was indeed part and parcel of what was financed through that?
The portion for construction is just under the heading of construction. There is not a parsing out of construction for leachate. I'm happy to tell you more about why we need to do this project. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or we can.
Gotta be done.
We can.
I think what he's trying to tell you is, in order for the county to be responsible from an environmental standpoint, this needs to be done. We're going to be generating more leachate rather than less now that we have a larger landfill. Motion to approve the request.
I have a motion by Commissioner Higdon.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor?
Aye.
Chris, you're still up, man.
Hey,
Evaluation
all right.
of convenience center attendant pay.
Let me just, I have an apology to make, but let me ask, can I have an aside with the attorney very quickly?
Sure. Anybody need a quick break?
Let's take a break right quick.
Let's just, let's recess for 5 minutes.
Surface tonight. Am I being Brad? Am I asking for too much?
No.
You don't need to be.
Did you get my note?
This?
With my smiley face?
That's fine. I mean, that's true.
I'll go ahead and I'll make sure that they understand you don't need to be talking about it.
Can you get, I mean, for this,
We're getting ready to be talking about some matter.
that's what I'm saying. Oh, I thought you were talking about two more. I thought you were talking about.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't, he blacked out. I left that box with 2 games.
item 11G, the lottery funds drawdown. Lori?
Yeah, this is just our annual process. This year, our applications for $311,893.72. So you guys have to approve it, then I have to get the school board to approve it. Then we send the application in and get our funds.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Gillespie. Second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor? Aye.
Can I ask a question?
No.
311,893.
When they say millions given towards education, are they talking about how much was supposed to be or how much they're actually using? Are they using 40% or 17?
Depends on which side of the aisle you're on.
Well, I saw one of those signs the other day about how many tens of millions of dollars for education. I wondered which number they were taking that advertisement.
We're only getting about half of what
All
we
right,
should
while
be
we're
getting.
waiting, let's go ahead and do item 13A, the library board appointment. Looks like we have a Debbie Talent.
Motion to approve.
We got a motion to approve in a second. Motion by Commissioner Higgins, second by Gillespie. All in favor? Aye. You want to go ahead and do consent agenda 2?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Gillespie, a second by Higdon. All in favor?
Second.
Aye. All right. Gillespie Chapels. Yeah, we're down to them.
What'd you say about the chapter?
I saw Ronnie going
Well,
after
that's the thing about
sales.
Christmas
He turned into
He's an enterprise fund, but he don't have any, he's got to generate some new revenues to cover this because he's a self-contained fund. And his current budget is balance, tax and fund balance in his fund. Which really should be a part of next year's budget.
Where did you put the chapter on this?
Yeah, we need to study this. I mean, we're not going to.
Yeah.
No action to that.
All right, Mr. Stahl.
If I could, Mike,
Here you go.
This is good. So some of you heard this already, but I apologize. I checked the agenda package today when I was printing the agenda. Did not realize this was not attached in your package. Since when last we spoke about the pay system for convenience center workers, I've done a little research to make some recommendations. You will see on page 2 that pink table at the top. I went and pulled all departments that had a fairly significant number, more than 1 or 2 part-timers. Took the average min, max, and range of each department to sort of try to get a baseline, a countywide baseline. As I say in my notes, this was not an in-depth look as far as what jobs people had, how much tenure they had. This was just from here to here is where this department is, and from here to here is where this department is. You see those reflected graphically, the bottom half of the page. The numbers there on that dotted red line would be the county average across all departments. The next page is simply the range of where we currently are in the first column after the blacked out area, and longevity, and then some proposals on the right hand side as to how we might adjust this in different ways. That is the financial impact of that is summarized at the top of page 4. Our average convenience center worker is making $8.60 an hour, but our centers are open 30,700 hours per year. I'm going to remember that number, so when people get there at 2 minutes till and say that the gate was locked, I'm going to say, well, you had 30,700 hours to get there. I'm not sure what's going on.
701.
But you see over here in the blue, the bottom of that table are
sort of the financial outcomes, or what it would mean to the enterprise fund under these various proposals. And then lastly, you see each of the proposals graphically represented alongside, again, the county average. Again, apologize, I know you guys didn't have time to look at this or process it. I can tell you that I am more in favor of options 3 and 4. As you see and remember in other payroll studies and other payroll activities, the flatter the line, the more the compression. And I think options 3 and 4 do a better job over time of rewarding people that both stick with us and that we are happy to keep around. I will say I ran another one today, didn't print it off. If you look back at page 3 in the 3rd column, and you read the calculation that went into option 3 there in the gold at the top of that column. If you were to change that 5% to 4.2%, just for instance, then the green line for option 3 that's shown on page 4 actually lays right on top of the county average. And lastly, these numbers are not exact because I realized on my way over here that I made an error in my calculations. The options assume that every 3rd year you would see an increase because of longevity. When I set up the formulas, I set it up to divide by 3, which means if you were here a year, you saw a 1/3 of a jump instead of no jump until you got to 3, 6, 9. So that'll change it, not significantly, but the reason I prefer to do it that way is so that we're not, I would like to have a system that would not need to be addressed every year. Something that would carry and then be looked at again a couple years later. So.
You ready?
Yes.
And these proposals that you're doing here works within the staff, I mean the Macon County employee payroll study numbers.
Yeah, I would say that it's very similar methodology to what went into the pay study.
And if you look at the first, I mean it's not a big chart, so it's hard to get a sense of just how different these lines are.
And the colors.
It's not that well, the colors are different, but the slopes and the starting and end points. We don't have a system for part-timers. Derek and I have talked about that, maybe at some point taking that on and trying to come up with a system more universal for part-time employees, but we don't currently have one.
Okay. And this convenience staffing was set up 25 years ago with part-time, and I don't know the logic. None of us really know what the logic was then.
Right.
But why do we still want to do everything part-time with the convenience center staff?
Well, frankly, it's 30,000 hours of payroll, and if we had full-time folks, then you're talking about retirement system, benefits, leave. It just becomes a much more costly system.
And the funding for this comes from the enterprise fund,
Yes,
from
sir.
the tipping
And availability fees, et cetera. Yes, sir.
which are very reasonable in my mind right now.
I think so.
So if you go with option 4 and we want it, this will be worked into the budget, whatever we agree
Must not
on.
dump as much as I do there.
What's that?
Paul must not dump as much as I do there.
Well, it doesn't matter how much you dump, it's what you pay to dump it. It's,
The more you dump, the more you pay.
That's America, baby. Isn't that capitalism?
At its best.
At its best. You've completely derailed Mr. Higdon.
The bigger you are, the more it costs to go through life, business-wise or whatever. But the whole way you fund this is going to be through the tipping and the availability fees.
Yes, yes, sir.
Is this sustainable if you went with option 4 tonight and we said let's fund it through option 4?
How would I fund
sustainable
it?
is that? Yes.
Well, anything's sustainable if I increase the fee. My goal here is to fund this without a fee increase. By my bad luck, not good luck, we have had a lot of turnover in supervisory positions this year. I think every supervisor I have has either retired or retired due to injury or left. And so we have some margin in our payroll. Frankly, it's, you know, until we actually sit down once a year, Lori and I sit down and balance the enterprise fund across all the different funds, old landfills, financial assurance, et cetera, until we complete that, I can't tell you that I can fund this 100%, but I will either find the money or find a way to pay for it without an increase. And I will be forthright with you that if I am to sustain it and need an increase to do that, you will see that in my budget message. Did speak with y'all last time about a couple of folks that are maybe not sharing their part of the load. I will present that information for your consideration in my budget.
The worst thing can happen, Chris, is, which we just went through, is the recession.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When it really dropped off.
Right.
You know, your tipping fees, it just.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it ain't gonna last forever, and these folks have to be on the job, whether there's a recession or not. These folks have to be there. See, they're not ones you're gonna be able to cut back.
No.
I mean, they gotta be there whether the reset, they're still gonna people's gonna create household trash, so.
Right.
But now the recession, just to remind everybody, that it probably hurt your department worse than any.
It was significant. It was about, I mean, there was a 30% drop in tipping fee revenue.
When you take the construction out of it.
There was a over 50% drop in construction, which hurts us more because, of course, we get paid a tipping fee on the business portion of regular MSW, but on 100% of construction demolition. And so when you lose over 50% of that, you're actually losing fairly significant amount of money.
Paul, I think they should be paid, but that's the only caveat that, you know, if that should ever happen, there will be another one. I mean, it always comes around.
Sure.
But at that time, you just have to cross that bridge when you get to it.
Right. When you went through, and first off, thank you for putting all the information together. I look forward to looking through it thoroughly. Did you compare how your pay structure is compared to some neighboring counties like maybe Jackson County? I mean, did they use part-time first off?
It's hard to find a real set path of how people fund these things. We still remarkably have a couple of counties that don't staff their centers. I can't imagine that.
Is Jackson's full-time or part-time?
Jackson uses part-time. What a number of, I want to say Jackson is in this count, but don't hold me 100%. No, never mind. You can hold me 100%. Jackson has farmed out their operation of the centers to their vendor provides the transportation. So it's part-time people, but it's not county employees. It's employees of Republic Waste Services.
And it's all under one contract.
No, well, it's 2 contracts, but yeah,
same people.
Same people.
And how, have you looked at what you're paying, what that person doing that job makes in Macon County versus Jackson County?
No, sir. I do not know what they make. I know what their contract is for per month, and it's hard to make these because so many people do it differently. Okay. Whether you're doing, not a lot of people have 11 centers. Not a lot of people open those centers 40, 60, 80 hours a week. Almost nobody opens on Sunday. So there's a lot of, there's just a lot of different ways that it's done. And so I don't know how many, I don't remember off the top of my head how many centers Jackson County has, but their contract payments would be in excess of option 4 by $35,000, $40,000.
But they don't have any other costs. They don't have any payroll taxes. They don't.
Correct.
So
right.
That's not really apples to apples to say that. Because
we don't have those.
You're not comparing a loaded rate.
Right.
Which is, you need to be a loaded rate compared to that rate. Right. And I know this isn't necessarily landfill responsibility, your responsibility, but I think it's noteworthy. There's so many folks that their only contact with Macon County is through those recycle centers.
Right.
So I think, I can't speak for the board, but, I think it would be important for those folks to have uniforms and those folks to receive some training along those lines because, there's many people that come through those recycle centers, they come and stay the weekend and they go by at Airbnb and they go by to drop off their garbage and they came in contact with folks at the restaurant, met with Ronnie Bill about building a new house, and then they drop the garbage off, and that's their impression of Macon County government. So I think it's just real important that we recognize that.
I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
At some point, even looking at going from all part-time to maybe a few full-time. I don't know. I'm not trying, like I said, I'm not trying to run your department, but I just can't get in my mind why this is structured probably as on full-time, part-time employees exclusively. There
are some reasons. If you could imagine 20 full-time people instead of 40 part-time people. Well, when a part-time person is sick and doesn't make it into work, we try to get the center open as fast as we can. We try to have floaters, extra people hanging around that aren't on the clock to send. If you had somebody in Scaly that was off that day and somebody in Nantahala that called in sick, it's not as easy to find a full-time. I can't keep 5 or 6 full-time people hanging around the office in case something's needed. Years ago, I ran the numbers on going to full-time. It was more than, I think it was to the tune of about $200,000 or $300,000 extra. Still at that 30,700 hours. I'd love to find a better way. And I will tell you guys, in all honesty, even when we look at it, hearing the pleasure of the board, but if we look at implementing some kind of change, we're going to have to go person by person. A lot of these folks are of some age, and we run the potential of a handful that we might cause them to run afoul of their other incomes.
Social Security.
We've had people ask if they could turn down a pay raise before because it was.
You can work with them on that.
Well,
yeah, I know.
It's not. I do what I can within within the confines of what Mr. Decker tells me is allowable under labor law.
I guess step one is that'll be left up to you, but I think it's good that we're acknowledging their value and trying to come up with a better, not degrading or, belittling anybody, but come up with a better pay scale for them. I think that's step one, improving working conditions for the staff.
Am I hearing you right, Chris, that you will have probably option 4 in your new budget coming up?
Either a variation of option 3 or option 4, yes, sir.
So that'll be in your budget?
Yes, sir.
That we'll be looking at soon?
Yes,
so
sir.
Okay.
Like I said, I have to make the operations and the dollars and cents work. I'm here for
well, a lot of
policy
people understand about
position.
the enterprise fund, how it's got
Do what?
it's its own little world, the enterprise fund.
Yes. And that's actually a wonderful thing.
Oh yeah. It was set up right.
Because I don't get into the battles with the other 23 departments that y'all have to deal with.
No action. Okay.
Again, just like I told you last time, the general nodding of heads that this is a position that you think the county wants to take.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
appreciate your
Item-
It's your fund.
All right, 11F.
That's mine?
Gillespie Chapel.
Gentlemen, this is Gillespie Chapel. Gillespie Chapel was constructed in 1875 as part of the Upper Cartagena community. And there's a little handout here. These folks, this board's had a history of helping preserve these buildings as part of our history. And so this is Upper Cartagena community. We've met with them several times, and I think some of y'all probably went there for meetings. It's not in that bad of a shape except for the roof, the chimney, and just general maintenance. If you look at the pictures, if you flip on back just real quickly, but to be a small community up in Upper Cartagena, these folks are very active, and if you've not never been to Gillespie Chapel, I encourage you to do so. It is definitely part of the history of this county. But you'll see it's got a shake roof on it, and we've all tried to patch it up, and it's got to be replaced. And it's going to be an expensive roof for a lot of reasons. Mostly is to take those shakes off and repair the roof, and so there's some rotten sheathing underneath, and general maintenance and painting, and the flue has got to be either repaired or taken down is what I would have suggested to the people up there. But you'll see on the very back page the request, and I don't want to throw this on you tonight, but unless you just feel in your heart that you need to help these poor people. Gillespie Chapel, you see the pavilion. For y'all have been out there, you know where and by the way, this is no relation to our Commissioner of Gillespie. Is that some of your ancestors way back in the day? It's a different set, I think. Yeah.
Probably on my side.
Yeah, it's more on Mr. Shields' side. But the re-roof of the pavilion, of course, the chapel is here, the graveyard, and then the little pavilion's up above, and they still use it, but it's in pretty bad shape. But we figure we can take enough of the roofing, and they do have prices and quotes. We have helped these other communities with their community buildings, and this building is probably one of the oldest buildings still left out there. It has no heat in it except for the wood stove. Of course, they meet in the spring and in the summer, but it's just a wonderful old building, Mr. Chairman, and they're asking for our help. They have managed to raise half the money to do these emergency repairs, these urgent repairs. The estimates came in at $37,440, and they're asking us for 50% of that. They've raised half the money, and of course they'd like to start working on it ASAP or this summer. But if y'all want to take this, and I know some of us don't like to spend money just off the.
Lori, what's the contingency, please?
$60,485, I think.
Or how long to go?
65,085.
Three.
Into June.
June 30th. Yeah.
Is it going back with a shake roof? Or
No,
shingle?
no shingle. And maybe metal. If they can raise a little bit more money, I would suggest going back to, there's a picture in here, Carl, if you can, I hope I brought it with me, that the original roof, of course, it was a metal roof. And so that's what I would, if the money would hold out, is to go back with the traditional look of a metal with a 5, get some of this good aluminum 5V that looks like regular old tin, but of course it's not. But that's what would make the building look more appeasing, and it's just a wonderful old building, and it's worth saving. It's part of our history. So however the board feels, Mr. Chairman, about moving ahead with it now out of contingency, or if they'd like to take and review and go up and have a tour of the little community building. But they would like to get started. Mr. Porter would be here tonight. He had to be out of town. He will probably be back next week, but they're very well organized. They've always had local help to help them keep the building, but it's got to the point they need a little help, and we have a history of helping these communities and especially these old buildings that we'd like to see preserved, and this is one of them.
Is that Rufus Morgan's building?
That's right. So,
Patton County funded, I know y'all funded Holly Springs.
Sugar Fork, Scaly Mountain, Otto.
How many more of these are sitting out?
There's not many that of this caliber. There's none that I know of this caliber. A single room like at Scaly, like at Pine Grove, Peach Creek, one at Peach Creek. This just a single room.
So question, how many?
I don't know of any more. I think there's. I don't know how many. Most of the Carson community, meets out here on the 64. They won't be needing anything like that. I don't know. Clark's Chapel, of course, meets at the fire department. I've been to all of them, so.
Do they have a bathroom in this one?
No, it's up at the pavilion. It's at the pavilion.
Ronnie, is this group prepared to enter into a similar type of recreation agreement like the others?
Yes, and I've tried to. I probably didn't explain it well, Chester, not as good as you could, but Mr. Porter will. He's very knowledgeable on those things. So, but anyway, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to hold it up. And that was presented. Some of y'all, I've talked to you about it in private, and that it is coming. So we finally got all of our stuff put together. So.
All right. We want to take action on it. We want to ponder it. And we want
Are they a non-profit?
Yes.
Do you know whether they're 501c3?
They are.
Has it actually come through? The paperwork indicated it might still be pending. That paperwork may
It's old. The paperwork is old. It is. It's been completed. It's like our no wrong door. It just takes a whole lot longer now.
It does.
It sure does. So, but of course, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see it proceed. But
sure.
If the other board members, some of, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it move ahead. This is one of those buildings that need preserving.
While I wasn't privy to the private conversation before this meeting,
I only had them with the county manager.
I do recognize that the county commissioners has funded several other buildings, and I would move that we move forward with the $18,720.
Now second that.
Out of contingency, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
It'd be contingent on
with the
no money would be dispersed. Of course, the money will be dispersed, so we remind everybody as the work is progressive.
Just like all the others.
We just don't give them the money until the work is done.
Chester had an amendment to it about the recreation agreement. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just curious how many years.
I think we need to do it the way we've done all the rest of it.
I think
some of them go annually because the sum is small. Some of them have gone longer because the sum is large.
I think because it's small, I would suggest extending it a little bit, Chester, because it is a very small group, and to get the work done. But
3 years?
At the most, no, 3 years is fine.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And that was from contingency, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, can we get a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussion of property acquisition in Chester?
You already done the
expect-
consent agenda?
We have.
Oh, good.
Chester, do you expect any action?
I don't.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Gillespie, second by Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
There's 65,
Those
85.
estimates, Carl, were
And of course, they just appropriated 1870.